a tradition feels so alive. Summer rhythms play with a stride. Go, 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 oh, shout it aloud. Hear the summer sun with a summer loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down.
Hello there and welcome to Talking Brazil Ball. It's another season ahead of us in Brazil to look ahead to today. I'm back, still on my Todd. James will join when he can this season, but I'm here looking ahead to the 2026 edition of the Brasileirão. It comes earlier than we are used to in the couple of years since we've been doing it. This is our third season covering the Brazilian football, if I can speak correctly. Yes, I can. And we're going to look upon it and run down every single team in the 2026 edition of the league in this video here. So thank you very much for joining us. It's about 6 weeks since I wrapped up the 2025 season. I wasn't expecting it to start so soon, if I'm being brutally honest, but it is, and we're very, very happy that it is. It kicks off on Wednesday, the 28th of January, and there's 8 games on the Wednesday. Then the other 4 teams start their season on Thursday and Friday. So it's a heavy schedule, as always, to begin with in Brazil. So today we're going to go through them alphabetically and just give a quick rundown of, maybe how I think they're going to do and everything like that. So each couple of minutes for each team, probably. So without further ado, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to. We're just on YouTube at the moment, but spread the word as we enjoy Brazilian football together. I will pick out my game of the week to have a look at for next week as well. And give me your thoughts in the comments. Who will win this season's Brasileirão? Obviously, Flamengo and Felipe Luis looking for a memorable double, of course. So we'll start at the top of the table with Atletico Paranaense, who have been promoted from Serie B. One season in Serie B, if you remember, all the way back in 2024. They were relegated. I think on the last day of the season, they ended up going down for the first time in quite a number of years. They came runners-up in the 2025 edition of the Serie B to Curitiba, who won it just 3 points above them at top of the tail. Paranense second on 65 points. So they are back in the Serie A, top division, coached by Odir Hellman. Has been there since May of 2025. They've got a good few, players in through the door. 3, 4, 5, 6 players through the door in readiness for this season. No real standout names there. Paranense looking to cement themselves back in the top division after relegation last time they were in it. Then we come to my team, Galo, of course. Kick off the season on the Wednesday against Palmeiras at the Arena MRV. Will be a tasty one. That one, of course. Scolari, sorry, not Scolari, is it? It's Sampaoli. Was Scolari once upon a time, wasn't it? I think, but Sampaoli, who came in September, late season last year, and he got poor season really for Galo, wasn't it? Last time out, to be quite honest, it was very, very disappointing. Really, and Hulk still going, still captaining the team. He is 40 by the summertime, so veteran player, but still very much at the forefront of their team. And Sampaoli will be hoping to better their 11th place finish. Of course, got them in the Sudamericana. Did that. Looked for a long period of time that they were really flirting with relegation with Garlo. Ended up really pulling themselves up and obviously respectable, looking like respectable finish in the end, 11th. They did only finish 6 points above the relegation, so it wasn't the best of seasons. San Pauli will be hoping for better transfer wise. They haven't really been busy really too much. Just four or five players coming through the door. Brendan Lodi, who once lined up for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League, he has signed. He was a free agent, and he comes through for them. Also, Alan Minder, who was playing in Belgium for Cercle Bruges, he has signed. And also coming from Europe, Sparta Prague, the Ecuadorian Angelo Prisedo. So he's come from Sparta Prague as well. So they've looked into Europe as well. And just a couple of days ago, Matteo Casiera also came from Europe. He came from Russia. He was playing for Zenit, the Colombian striker. So that's a little bit of spent a little bit of money on him there. They did 6.6 million. So they have spent a little bit of money. Alan Minder was 5.8. Prisedo just over 4 million. So they have sort of spent a little bit of money here, Garlo, looking to really hit the ground running. Obviously, they did lose Los Guilherme Arana to Fluminense. Of course, that's a big blow. The Brazilian international, regular for Ancelotti, isn't he? Since he came in, he's departed for Fluminense. Zubel Diaz, Fluminense, of course. So we'll wait and see. Probably a bit of a better season for Garlo, I would predict. You've got to be looking at the top knockings of the league, really, for Garlo, hopefully this time round, but we'll wait and see. Bahia then, looking down the league alphabetically, Rogério Ceni still in charge. One of my favourites, I have to say, since we started the pod. I do like Rogério Ceni. Bahia, with that kind of City group link, are in good hands, aren't they? And, they always have one or two players who are a little bit sought after. They've had a very, very, very good, very good Beneo. Absolutely brilliant. They've won all of their games, 15 points so far. They do play, they beat Bahia on the weekend as well. They beat Vitoria. They are Bahia. They beat Vitoria. So that ended a perfect regional competition for them. They come in to the Serie A season. They face Corinthians away on the opening day, Wednesday, 11 p.m. to mark your calendars. Then on to Fogo. Bahia, I think, will do okay. Again, they'll probably be looking for Sudamericana at the very least. Fogo's a funny one, and it is your first one with a new manager for this season. Fogo, of course, won our very first season covering the Brasileirão in 2024. A memorable double, obviously the Libertadores collected as well in that season. Absolutely fantastic season. But, of course, the Arthur Jorge, the manager, departed for the Middle East, didn't he? And since then, it's been a bit of a mess with managerial appointments. Paiva was sacked very quickly. Well, he was sacked within the season. And now, David Ancelotti, who was, in. Obviously, Carlo's son worked with Carlo a lot as his assistant, still maintained his job as his assistant in the national side. But he came in and, they finished sixth, which was obviously you always knew there was going to be a bit of a dip from them having won the title, big high of the double winning season in 2024. Wasn't quite the same heights in 25. Although they were only a few points off fourth, weren't they, in getting Libertadores qualification. They did end up with Libertadores qualification, but they have to go through they have to go through qualifying basically, and they do play National Potosi of Bolivia in their first, their first qualifying round. So it's round two. So hopefully, from their point of view, they get through, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes for them. But they do have a new coach. I think it is a bit harsh on Ancelotti. He got sacked. His first ever managerial position. I do think it was a little bit unfair, to be fair. He had a good win percentage, I think, of about 40 odd percent. He won more than he lost, and they drew a few as well. I don't think it was really. Maybe he didn't get on with the chairman. We know he's very, very outspoken, but I was a little bit disappointed to see that they changed the manager, really. And in for him, his former Porto manager, the Argentinian Martin Aselmi, and it'd be very, very interesting to see how he gets on. Only a short spell in charge of Porto. This time last year, he was appointed in January 25. Only lasted half a season. He was got rid of in the summer of that season as Porto, disappointingly for them, finished in third position. Quite a number of 11 points off the Portuguese title, which was ultimately won by Sporting, and they are now absolutely flying at the top, a few points ahead of Sporting this time round. So he is in Fogo Aselmi. Let's see if he can do better than his predecessors, because they're going through managers very, very quickly at the moment at Fogo. Artur Jorge was an absolute fabulous choice, and obviously, goes down as a legendary coach, doesn't he? But he departed after only one season, which was a real shame. Fogo haven't really done much business in terms of players in. Utalo from Toronto, it's probably the one that you'd say maybe, but he's a free transfer from, like I said, the MLS. And then Lucas Villabala has joined the Uruguayan from Nacional. So they haven't really done a great deal of business, really. And I don't think they'll do so well. Fogo might struggle, actually, this time round. But we will have to wait and see on that one. On to further down the table, second newly promoted team of the list, and that is Chapecoense, who obviously had that airplane disaster a number of years ago now. They have rebuilt themselves after 3 years in Serie B, 4 years in Serie B, having got relegated in 2021 last in Serie A. So yeah, they've been very much up and down. They won Serie B in 2020, came straight back down to Serie B in 2021, and then, like I said, 4 years in, they finally made the way back up to Serie A, which is good for them after obviously that disaster. They've built themselves back up. They also they don't have a new coach. Sorry, Gilmar Dal Pozo. Sorry, the Brazilian man has been in there for about 18 months now. He's in his fourth spell as manager. Is Dal Pozo. So yeah, let's wait and see how they get on. They did sign, which I do like, Yannick Balassi. Obviously, yeah, a favourite of mine and James's on the channel. He's joined on a free transfer from Cruzeiro. Didn't really work out for him in Cruzeiro, did it? Unfortunately, but he's back still in Serie A for the third year running. Obviously, Cruzeiro, and now Chapecoense. He likes the teams beginning with C. Obviously, played for Crystal Palace as well in England, of course. They've brought quite a number of players in of Chapecoense, but they've had to strengthen. Obviously, coming up from the second division, you always have to you have to see yourself right, don't you? Move it. As a word on how I think they'll do. I think they might struggle slightly. Yeah, I probably predict them to probably go down, but you never know, do you? The miracle of Mirasol last season was caught us all by surprise. Me and James, obviously, but wider journalists as well. Absolutely flabbergasted by their rise in the end. So we're going to sixth. Well, they're in sixth at the moment. Obviously, no games played. Corinthians, obviously, in the end, they did win. Donival Jr. ended up with silverware. They won the Brazilian Cup with a win over Vasco. The Copa do Brazil went to Sao Paulo and Corinthians in particular. Memphis Depay scored the winning goal after a goalless game at the Corinthians Stadium. They went to Vasco and won the game with a second half goal from Memphis Depay, who, has been a bit disappointing, Annie, really, as well as Alberto. Alberto got the other goal in that aggregate win as well. But they've just been a little bit disappointing for me. You'd expect maybe Alberto to kick on and maybe go to Europe. He hasn't done that. He is still, as of recording now, he is still there. They have signed a few players just free through the door, including a few days ago, Pedro Milans is a free transfer from Penarol. But other than that, they haven't really strengthened too much. They've had a few go out as well. But ultimately, they need better to Corinthians. We always speak about it, me and James, about the firepower that they had. But it's just, Garo and Nigao, the young lad who came and scored a few goals last season, Guy Nigao. We have seen, of course, young players from Brazil starting to make it in Europe now, of course, and Nigao might be the next one off the conveyor belt. But Garo, there was Garo, there's Memphis Depay, obviously, and Alberto, and they're just not really doing much. Donival Jr. is a good coach, but he won the cup, obviously, but they'll be hoping for better this time round. 13th was a disappointing finish for them last time. On to Curitiba, obviously, first time covering Curitiba this time round. They do have a new manager, won the league in 2025. Serie B was theirs. Like I said, finishing 3 points above Atletico PR in the end. Curitiba, it's a familiar face who has been appointed as their manager, Mr. Fernando Seabra. He was, of course, sacked from RB Bragantino in October. Further then, he was with Cruzeiro. We know him well on the pod, obviously. A very talented manager, only still quite youngish for a manager. And he was appointed a matter of weeks ago, just before the turn of the year. And, he will be wanting and hoping for a really good season. They've bought in a few. They've seemed to have raided Fortaleza, who, of course, now sitting in Serie B, with Tinga and Breno Lopez coming in as well. They've also signed Maicon from Vasco and Thiago Santos from Fluminense, amongst quite a few other players from up and down Serie B, Serie A as well. And they've really recruited quite a few, but they've done, they'll be hoping that bounce straight up to Serie A will really help them. They had just the 1 year in the end in Serie B, which was, of course, the year that we started the pod. They started in, they got relegated in 2023. Obviously, we started in 24. That was their first season in Serie B. They spent 2 years there, came mid-table last time, won it, in 24, won it last time out, and now they look for their what they can do since 2022. Curitiba back amongst the big boys, and it's a big one to start with for Seabra himself, coming up in his new home against his old team RB Bragantino on Wednesday night. So one to keep an eye on from their point of view. I think they might be all right. Of the promoted sides, I'd say that maybe they might do the best out of the four of them, but let's wait and see. On to Cruzeiro then, and Cruzeiro, what a real shame for Cruzeiro. Had a storming season last time out, finished in third position. They weren't that far off the top, 9 points off Flamengo, who had eventually won it, only 6 points off second place Palmeiras. They were really had a storming season under Leonardo Jardim. Jardim unfortunately stepped down at the end of the season, citing mental health issues, and he had to protect himself. He cited that as as the reasoning as to why he wanted to step down. It's a real shame for Cruzeiro because they had something good going with him. They had something really good going with him, and Caio Jorge, who I think really should try his hand at the Premier League, perhaps has been linked with West Ham in the past. I wouldn't mind my team, Leeds United, going after him, to be honest, but no links or anything. That's just me saying I wouldn't mind him in the building at Leeds. But Caio Jorge is still, at the moment, a Cruzeiro player. Mateus Pereira signed a new deal last week as well, which was also very, very fruitful for them. Was not as important a player last season, but he has been important for them. 7 goals was still a good return for Pereira. Of course, known at the Hawthorns and remembered well at the Hawthorns, isn't he? But they do have a new coach in, and this is quite a coup for Cruzeiro, really. It's former Brazilian international coach Tite, who, of course, we haven't seen him since September of 2024. He had about a year spell in charge, just short of a year spell in charge of Flamengo, but obviously well-decorated coach, fantastic coach. He's one of my favourites, so I am very intrigued to see how Cruzeiro do. Will they build on last season's success? Will be difficult, but you've got to say, having that good season last time out, it will be surprising if they don't follow it up with another good season. They're in the Libertadores now. Interesting to see how they get on in there as well. And the sort of they've been obviously they've spent big again on Gerson from Zenit again. Zenit are losing a few players, aren't they? But 22 million has been spent on Gerson, who obviously formerly turned out for Flamengo under Tite as well. He would have been a very influential figure in Gerson's switch to Belo Horizonte and Cruzeiro. So let's wait and see how they get on. Very much intrigued to see if they can follow up last season's success with another one this time. And that brings us to the holders of the Brasileirão, Flamengo, of course, and obviously they didn't see fit much to recruit many. Felipe Luis had an absolute fantastic double winning season for them. He signed a new deal, I think, a few weeks ago as well. Well, at the back end of last year, I think it was. So he's tied down there, but there are murmurs going on that he maybe could be coming to Europe as well. Somebody might take a punt on him eventually because he has won things with Flamengo in his short time there. They are very, very experienced, a good mix of experience and youth in this Flamengo side. Like I said, they haven't really seen much to add to this, double winning title team. Vital has come in from Inter, and the goalkeeper Andrew has come from Portugal as well, come from the side Gil Vicente, who of course lost Pedro as well to West Ham earlier in the window. Let's wait and see if he will be a number one for them, but they haven't really done much business. They don't really need to. They've got a very experienced and very heavyweight squad. Really quality squad for this sort of level. So Flamengo, I probably tip them to win it again. yeah, I'd say they're my pick to win the thing again if Felipe Luis doesn't get cherry picked to Europe, which I'm sure he will eventually, to be quite honest. Into the 10th team, then halfway through, then, and it is Fluminense. Mr. Zubel Diaz, Fluminense, came through, didn't he, in September, and kept them relatively steady in the end. A fifth place finish was absolutely fabulous, really. In the end, it was, and they were not far off Mirasol in fourth, just 3 points off them. So, Zubeldia had a he was no small part of playing that. He was very impressive. Of his 13, sorry, of his games in charge, he's won 13 of them of his 22 games. So that's quite impressive, really. Had a good impression on them after being sacked from Sao Paulo. And I think Fluminense will fancy the chances, really. Going in with a full season of Zubeldia has really made a difference, like I said. And they'll be hopeful that he can really come in and from the very off this time set the cat amongst the pigeons and potentially get them in the reach or in the conversation of winning the title at the very least. And a big signing just a few days ago, Mr. Jefferson Savarino, who we know very well on the pod, always a scorer of a nice goal. He's won a fair few goal of the rounds since we've been going, and he is now signed from Botafogo for 5.3 million a fee. I don't know if that's pounds or Brazilian currency. But Jefferson Severino, well known to us on the pod, and he'll be well known to obviously watchers of the Brasileirão. He is now going to line up for Zubeldia in Fluminense colours this coming season. Also, like I mentioned before, Guilherme Arana, the left back, regular in Carlo Ancelotti's Brazilian national side, has made the switch from Galo as well. So that is a blow for my side, but a real real asset for Flu going into this season. And yeah, there's no real outgoings really. Obviously, Thiago Silva departed at the end of last season. Now lines up for Porto in the Portuguese league. Came to play his debut last weekend, didn't he, in the 1-0 win over Vitória de Guimarães. He did play the whole game in that away win for his new side, Porto. Obviously, will be a big miss potentially. Did play a good few games for Fluminense last season. On to Grêmio then, and another new manager in for these guys. And yeah, obviously Mano Menezes was in the whole season last season. He's only just been relieved of his duties in the back end of last season. He has been replaced by Mr. Luis Castro, who last had a foray into Brazil in March of 2022 with Botafogo. Didn't stay long, just over a year for Fogo, and now he went on to the Middle East, managed his countryman Cristiano Ronaldo at Al Nassr just a couple of years ago. He was sacked there in September of 2024. And then he went on to UAE as well. And then now he was sacked in November, and then he lines up for Grêmio in back end of last year. He is now ready for the new season in as manager of Grêmio. Grêmio kick off their season with a game against Fluminense away from home on the Wednesday, 28th of January. Will be a very interesting one. This one, for me, Grêmio, straight from the off, a new manager. I predict them to do quite well. I know that might be a bit outlandish and a bit like, where have you got that from? But I just think, obviously 9th finish last season. They have been mid-table since we started the pod, really. 14th, 2024. 9th, an improvement in ninth last season, but they came second in 23. So yeah, hopefully Luis Castro, from their point of view, can get them playing again. And I don't know, I just feel they might do quite well. They bought in Weatherton. I really like the signing of Weatherton from Palmeiras. Very, very experienced goalkeeper, 38-year-old goalkeeper. Hugely experienced. They've got a lot of experience in that squad. Willian's still there. You know, there's Arthur as well, formerly of Liverpool, of course. You know, they've got Martin Braithwaite coming back in the early part of the season from a long injury. They've got Christian Pavon. There's a few here that could really, you know, do damage from the start. There's Carlos Vinicius, who ended the season in fantastic form for Grêmio, didn't he? So let's wait and see how they get on. In the next one we're speaking about is Inter, of course, James's side. Grêmio's big rivals sealed safety on the last day of last season with a 3-1 win over RB Bragantino. Really down in the doldrums. I think at one point they were going down on that day, and then they hoisted themselves up for another season of top flight football. Inter obviously now changed the manager, and they have former Watford manager Paulo Pezzolano, the Uruguayan lad. Only a short spell in charge of Watford, what might we say? So no lasts long at Watford, do they? They've got Javi Garcia at the moment, probably the longest serving manager for some time. He was appointed back end of last season, and he didn't last long into this season. He's sacked in October by Watford. We know how trigger happy they can be with managers, like I said. Has managed in Brazil before with Cruzeiro, just over a year with them, finishing in March of 2023. Otherwise he's been other places, Mexico as well, his native Uruguay as well, before then going to Real Valladolid as well in Spain, had a spell there before, like I said, joining Watford in May of 25. I just think it'll be a struggle, won't it, for him, I think, and for Inter really, some really, really disappointing season last time round. They haven't really added much real quality looking at what they've brought in here. They have brought one or two in, but for me, might be another struggle of a season, to be quite fair. Might be a bit of a struggle of a season. I don't think James will thank me for saying that, but yeah, I can't see Pezzolano lasting very long. I just don't see them really threatening much. It's a real shame because it's a massive team, but we'll wait and see. Mirassol is another one, the next one on the list. Magic Mirassol. Guinaines won our manager of the season. He's still there. I'm so surprised that he's still with Mirassol, but maybe wants to look and see how the Libertadores campaign goes, how they start. For me, obviously incredible. You can't really judge it and predict it, can you? But for me, incredible season last time out. They do open their campaign with a home match against Vasco. So it's a winnable game just to kick off with. And then I don't think the Libertadores rounds have been obviously locked in since they're doing the qualifying rounds, aren't they, so far? So they're yet to find out when they're going to start with, who they're going to start the Libertadores with. But it's an absolute massive achievement. And the kick off with the game against Vasco, I think they'll do okay. But I think they will be hovering above relegation, to be quite honest. I do think Guinaines will go eventually, probably not that long into the season, because I think he'll probably get a better offer. We know what it's like in Brazil. You know, teams are sacking the manager. Probably somebody will sack the manager after like the second game or something like that, probably. And, you know, he's got stock now, and I think that no disrespect to Mirasol, because it's a fabulous story, but I think he will be looking for a higher paid job now and a bigger team to manage. I would have said, his stock is so high as this current moment because of what he did with them last season. So, the bought in players, notably from last season, one you might remember from Ciara is Lucas Mungi. I think he won goal of the round in one stage of the season. They have brought in quite a lot of players, but again, second season in the Serie A, it was a fantastic season last time, but they've got to back it up with and juggle that with Libertadores as well. So it's going to be a real struggle, I think, for Mirasol this time round. But I think they'll be okay. I think they'll do all right. I don't think they'll be in danger of going down, if I'm being completely honest. But, again, the high cupping quality, everybody knows what they're like now. Guineas is no longer a kind of an unknown quantity, and Mirasol aren't either. So they'll now be taken maybe a little bit more seriously by the competitors, and I think that'll probably be to their detriment as well, because I just don't see them. Yeah, I just can't see them emulating what they did last time round. But you never know, do you? On to Palmeiras then, obviously came second, disappointingly, last season, and second in 24 as well, after back-to-back wins in 22 and 23. Really disappointing for them. Ended up 6 points behind Fogo in 24. Last season, they ended up just 3 points behind Flamengo. And Alba Ferreira has been absolutely cursing his lads after a 4-0 thrashing against Nova Rizentino last week. They did beat Sao Paulo over the weekend in that sort of that's a derby game, isn't it? There, but yeah, not the best. I don't know what went on in that 4-0 game, but to be fair, they did win every other game. They have won every game apart from that thrashing, and they do start, like I said, with my team Garlo away from home. Will be very interested to see how they set up, and they'll be wanting another title, won't they? Of course, they've got to be in the conversation, and they will be in the conversation. I think Flamengo will probably win, but I do think that Palmeiras, they're always in the conversation. You can't really look past them. They'll be top three at least, probably top two, to be fair, won't they? And Ferreira, I keep thinking last season he was going to go, but he's still there. He's been there since, I think this is his sixth season in the hot seat. So yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going anytime soon, to be fair. He'll be chomping at the bit to get his hands on another trophy or some silverware at least. Obviously ended up empty-handed in the end. Obviously lost the Lib final to Flamengo as well. Would have really hurt. But yeah, they'll be in the conversation, definitely. Haven't really strengthened too much. They've only bought a couple of players in, notably Marlon Freitas from Botafogo lines up for them this time around in green. Next is RB Bragantino, and obviously we're coming towards the end of it now. RB Bragantino are still managed by Wagner Mancini, who came in towards the end of last season in October, managed to steer them to a relatively safe position in 10th, had an awful second half of the season, started really well and then just dipped. Obviously, Seabra was sacked and, Mancini came in and eventually saw them to, 10th is all right, isn't it? But you'd hope for a little bit more potentially. The squad's not too bad. But again, looking at what they brought in, hasn't been a great deal of things. It's been very pedestrian. The you'd say probably the whole everything really. The whole transfer policy very pedestrian. I think RB are probably looking at another mid-table finish. They should be doing a little bit better, but they'll hope for, hope they won't be embroiled in a relegation battle like they were in 24. Obviously, left it very late to secure their place in the top division for last season. Obviously, this season now very much more looking to kick on. Whether they do or not is remains to be seen. Now, Remo, what a story Remo is. If you think Mirasol's a story, well, look at Remo. Goodness gracious me. In Serie C in 2023, incredible rise to the top. They finished in second position in Serie C and then fourth position last season in Serie B. 2 promotions in a row has seen them right to the top. Very similar story to Mirasol. Obviously, Mirasol, coming straight up as well, didn't they? From they had one season in Serie B in 23 and then came up in 24. Remo, it's a fantastic story, this really. It is managed by a new man at the helm, has come in again back end of last season, back end of the year. Juan Carlos Osorino, Colombian manager, has managed before in Brazil with Atletico PR, but it's the completely unknown. Like Mirasol last season, I mean, a lot of people say, right, they're going straight down. We all said that about Mirasol last season, and look what happened. So you've got to reserve your judgment probably till the early part, 4, 5, 6 games in, and see how they start the game, how they handle, being in Serie A. So it's a completely unknown quantity. Obviously, straight off the bat, I'm probably going to say they're probably going to go down, but you just don't know, do you? They've upheld the squad. There's quite a number of players come in. There's about 12 players come in through the door to kick off this 26 Brasileirão campaign. They do start with Vitória, so it's quite a manageable start. Vitória's not that's not a bad one to start with, really. I don't think. And then Mirasol. So, the opening 2 games, you might think, let's be competitive. We might be able to get something from this, really. Like I said, Mirasol is the first home game. I think 3 years ago, you'd say Remo against Mirasol is going to be a top flight game. I think a lot of people would laugh in your face with them being down in Serie C at the time. But fair play to them, and I hope they do well. But something inside me says it's probably not going to be another. There's only one Mirasol story, really, and I don't know whether Remo can really compete with that, to be quite honest. But let's see. On to Santos then. And like I said, we're getting to the nitty gritty, the end of the preview here now. Obviously, Santos, big news for them was that Neymar signed, didn't he? He's going to be there for a bit longer, isn't he? Now is Neymar, but of course he's injured till early February. He will miss the start of the season. He has played in the regional campaign, the Paulista, but actually I don't know whether he did. I don't think he did. He's been injured for a bit. Neymar was the big story for Santos in their return to Serie A last season. Now he's always injured, and he's become, for me, a little bit of a nuisance sort of most of the season. Came on strong towards the end and ended up with 8 goals, which was quite impressive, really. But he's stuck with Santos. Maybe it's something that, not many people wanted him. I think he was hoping that a little spell back at home at Santos to recoup, and then he'll go off again to Europe. It hasn't happened like that. Obviously, his wage demands are super high. He's still only 33. Will be 34 in a few weeks' time, in a couple of weeks' time. So, but he's still got something to offer. He's still got something to offer, that is for sure. So let's wait and see how they do. Apart from that, they have brought in Gabigol from Cruzeiro. Didn't really work out for him in Cruzeiro at all. It's only a loan though, so he'll be back in Belo Horizonte in January of next year. Spends the season with Santos, but let's see what he can do. Already 2 goals in the Paulista. So let's see how he can start the season. Otherwise, again, nothing much to report from their sort of transfer dealings. Vojvoda is still the manager, so he's a decent coach. Let's see what he can do with a full season at Santos. Obviously came in August of last year after being let go of, wasn't he, by Fortaleza, who were ultimately relegated, obviously. Now, Sao Paulo managed by former Chelsea man and AC Milan striker Hernan Crespo. Very disappointing last season. They finished in 8th. Again, pedestrian is the word for them. Very middle of the road. Frustrating, a bit disappointing season, really, in the end. But, then they begin with the champions, Flamengo, at home. What a game that is to look forward to on Thursday, early morning of Thursday the 29th of January. They haven't really done much dealings in terms of transfers of any note, really. Again, 5 players brought in. But yeah, it's, again, nothing stands out so much, and we're probably looking at a middle of the road season again at Sao Paulo. Let's wait and see. Then Vasco, the penultimate team we look at today in this preview. Vasco still managed by Fernando Diniz, of course, well-decorated manager in Brazilian football, but doesn't win a great deal nowadays. Has been at Vasco, of course, since May of last year. Had a good chunk of last season at Vasco in Rio, and so it was okay, wasn't it? In the end, for Vasco, they finished in 14th position. Always flirting with relegation, weren't they? But ultimately, you thought they've got enough. They've got enough to stay up, haven't they? And they did ultimately in the end. Still, they've got Coutinho, who seems to be enjoying his football back in his hometown. Of course, back in his home place. Back at home is always a good place to keep going, isn't it? But the big news for Vasco is that Ryan is looking like he's joining the Premier League, isn't he? Coming to Europe is Mr. Ryan, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he performs. In the black and red of Bournemouth. Of course, he was looking like he was going to play black and white for a bit. Newcastle were interested, but I think it looks like, I don't know if it's been done yet. I don't think it's been done yet, but Bournemouth are very close, if they're not already done it, of sealing the signature of Ryan. Had a very impressive season last time out. 20 goals in all, which was absolutely incredible. 14 of them came in the league. Fair play to him. It looks like he's earned his big money move to the Premier League. And this is what I mean. Brazil is full of young, talented players who could go on to make the names big in Europe, or at least try the hand. I'm very excited to see how Ryan gets on. So, yeah, we are going to wait and see as Vasco, as a whole, as a club. Again, haven't done a great deal of business in the transfer window. It's more sort of outgoings than anything else for Vasco. Unfortunately, which I was really disappointed about, Mr. Pablo Vighetti has departed Vasco last week. He's going to play in Paraguay for Serie A Porteño, which is a real shame. He was an old player, but he was banging in the goals all the time. So that is a real shame to see him not line up in Brazil next season. But there you go. Obviously, it wasn't right for him. I think Vasco probably be flirting with relegation again, won't they? But let's wait and see. And last but not least is Vitória, managed by Ventura. We know him. He was manager of Juventude as well before, and Corinthians and Santos. He's been at been around the block in Brazil in Serie B as well. Vitória, obviously, at the very end of the season, last day, they saved themselves. And I think, again, very much be flirting with relegation, these won't they? Let's wait and see what happens. But I don't expect a much of an outlandish and impressive season from Vitória, really. But let's wait and see what happens. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me in this 50-minute preview of the new season that kicks off on Wednesday. We will just run down the fixture list for the opening round one, Wednesday the 28th of January. Like I said, I will pick out my game of the week, and I will report back to everybody next week on how they went with my goal of the round and player of the round. Let's try and get it focused this season. James will be in and out. Like I said, he will try and join us when he can. But let's wait and see. Ultimately, I will be holding the fort until his return. But let's, run down the fixture list. And yeah, we'll see who starts where. So Wednesday the 28th of January is kickoff day. Galo host Palmeiras. Curitiba host RB Bragantino. Internacional host Atletico Paranaense. Vitória against Remo. Fluminense against Grêmio. Chapecoense against Santos. Corinthians host Bahia. And Mirassol host Vasco. Into Thursday, the 29th of January, then half past midnight here, kickoff. So Sao Paulo against Flamengo. And match week 1 ends with Fogo against Cruzeiro on half past midnight on Friday, the 30th of January. So there you go. That's a run through of all 10 first day fixtures. And looking at it, what's my game of the week going to be? I'm going to go with Fluminense Grêmio. I think that looks like the most, at the start of the season, you look at the most attractive games potentially. I think this one has the potential to be quite a good one. I think Fogo Cruzeiro as well might be a decent one to look at as well. But I'm going to go with Flu Grêmio and see how that one pans out. Obviously, James isn't here to pick his one out, but I might ask him and see what he, see and report back to you guys and see if he gets his prediction right. We don't predict it, do we? We just see how they get on. But let's wait and see how this season goes. Thank you very much for joining me and sticking with me. If you have done, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's see what the season brings. Come on, it's football. Hugo Bonito is back, and let's hope it's a good season. Thanks very much, and I will see you on the next one.